make a move and the bunny gets it.
I said, put the bunny back in the box. Why couldn't you put the bunny back in the box?
It's showtime.
Why doesn't the hero reveal himself and tell us your true name? You do have a name. My name is Gladiator. How dare you show your back to me? Slave, you will remove your helmet and tell me your name. My name is Fun My Comic, and I represent all the campaigns you shadow banned and kicked off your website. Huh? Creators that just wanted to fund, that wanted to be left alone. And we will build a website that is going to bury you all. Oh crap.
Roar. Roar.
Colonel Ironsides here. 200 years I stood in the gap, fighting those who would harm my country. It was my honor, my sacred duty, so help me God. 9 times they took my life. 9 times I stood back up and made them pay. The freedom fighter I could handle anything, but someone betrayed me. I was ambushed, made mortal, rendered powerless, and retired. They passed an amendment that made me a civilian before I left the hospital. For 50 years I watched my country change. Watched its work while erasing me from history. The day I quit my job, I powered up and discovered they lied about that too. I'll remind them of freedom. I'll remind them of duty. I'll remind them of their oaths of whom they serve. I'll remind them while I'm shoving it down their throats.
Psychically, I'm very well endowed.
I wanna know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I wanna know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
There we go. Thank you, StreamYards, for muting my mic randomly. Anyway, welcome to the show. This is my Monday show. Bunny is thinking. Usually, I want to share with you guys things that I've enjoyed, things that I think that you need to check out. Sometimes it's music. Sometimes it's other, sometimes it's a retrospective on things that I enjoy. Sometimes it's a subject, or something like Narnia or Oz or something like that, where I'll go over adaptations and the story itself. But then sometimes I'll get very specific. Lately I've been doing like authors, and books, not only just authors, but book series by those authors. I'm getting really specific. And today, now, in the realm of adventure fiction, there's a few names that you'll know. Okay, James Bond. Ian Fleming's James Bond. You'll know Alan Quartermane. You'll know Flash Gordon. You'll know Indiana Jones. He never was like in published literature, but the movie series. He was like a amalgamation of other, a whole bunch of other characters. And, the Doc Savage. People like that. But, it was a very specific kind of hero. And the guy I'm going to talk about today, the author I'm going to talk about today, was inspired by all of those things. Except he decided to make a hero that was more along the lines of Jacques Cousteau. It's like if Jacques Cousteau was kind of like James Bond. What would that look like? It's a very interesting idea. And this Clive Cussler is this author's name. And he has over 85 published works. Now, a lot of them have his name. A lot of them the last few years have had his name on them, but he's passed away since 2015, I think. And so he's been gone a little while. Maybe 2012. Let me look. It's 2020, actually. It's very recent. He passed away in 2020 at age 88. But he was a bon vivant. He was a man who loved classic cars. And he was a really he had a really interesting hobby that I'm going to talk to you about. Anyway, hold on. Hey, bro, what's up, dude? Good to see you. But he had a very interesting hobby. Now, not many people will create something fictional and then try to find a way to make it real. But Clive did just that. But most of his stories have the hero Dirk Pitt. Now, Dirk is a kind of knife, I just found out today. But he actually named it for his son, his baby son at that time. And so I don't know where he got the name Pitt from. I don't know if he's ever said anything. I think he just wanted something really kind of like James Bond, Indiana Jones, the last, Quartermane kind of blows that out of the water, but, but it is just kind of like something very abrupt, very manly and masculine. But he came up with this book series, basically around a fictional organization. I got the idea for my FERA in my world from this Clive Cussler, because Clive Cussler said, okay, there's no specific like a federal agency that does the things that I kind of think need to be done. So I'm going to create a world where this fictional agency exists. Okay. And it's called the National Underwater Marine Agency. And they're in his world, they're over anything, basically anything nautical. And but they're like more like an FBI for the waves, for the seas and everything. but they like pursued their own projects in a lot of ways. His boss, Dirk Pitt's boss, is Adam Sandecker, and Admiral Sandecker is kind of a. I've always thought that he kind of like based Admiral Sandecker on maybe William Tecumseh Sherman, because he's like got a red beard, he's got the same manner, he smokes cigars like Sherman did, and I think he has a lot of personality traits that are similar. And I do know that Clive Cussler is a big Civil War nut, and so the idea that Sandecker is going to be like based on William Tecumseh Sherman. It's one of the reasons why he's one of my favorite characters in the whole book series. But Dirk Pitt also has Adam Giordano, who's his buddy. Hold on a second. Okay, all right. Anyway, so let me give you an overview of the series.
So you're at a local bookstore and you see a bookshelf filled with Dirk Pitt novels with illustrations of ships printed on the front covers. You passed them before but never had the guts to pick one up. Your grandpa keeps raving about them and he won't shut up about it. What's the Dirk Pitt series even about, besides boats, planes, trains, and automobiles? You see what I did there? Okay, moving on. The Dirk Pitt novels have been around since the late 1970s. They were created by the pulp adventure writer Clive Cussler. In short, it's about Dirk Pitt, a Vietnam War veteran turned marine engineer who works for NUMA, the National Underwater and Marine Agency. He's dedicated to helping save the world's oceans from corrupt businessmen and ruthless pirates, all the while answering history's best-kept secrets. Pitt is a simple man who's fond of classic cars, fast women, and the life at sea. Like in James Bond, Pitt and his NUMA crew will investigate potential threats to the environment and to civilization. Usually there's an international incident or a disaster at sea, and NUMA will have to intervene. Pitt has the unique mindset of turning to the past to solve the problems of the present, whether it's locating a lost Civil War battleship to find the source of a deadly plague, or finding a rare metal to thwart global warming, or discovering the ancient ruins of a lost civilization in order to prevent the end of the world. These books also have a layer of science fiction and historical mystery. Clive loves to talk about oceanography, mining, aeronautics, engineering, and he punches up his writing with ideas of the future. He also likes to put his own spin on history, such as what if the Trojan War was never fought in Turkey, but on the shores of the United Kingdom. I think new readers may miscategorize these books as treasure hunting adventures, like something out of Indiana Jones, but that's not true. The treasure hunting aspect of Dirk Pitt is more of the icing on the cake. The bulk of it is more spy thriller / science fiction. Some critics of Clive Cussler may say his later work is too formulaic, unrealistic, downright cheesy, but that's kind of the point. He grew up in times of the old pulp stories like Doc Savage, so I can understand where he's coming from. It's a guilty pleasure, and I love it. My personal favorite is Atlantis Found, where Pitt has to find a lost 17th century whaling ship in the middle of the Antarctic, but is attacked by Nazis in a U-boat. If you've already read Dirk Pitt or any of the other Clive Cussler series, let me know what you think about them in the comments below. I might do a video on the Oregon Files or Isaac Bell. Subscribe if you want more content, and I'll see you on the next day.
Okay, so that is Clive Cussler. Now, Clive, these Dirk Pitt novels are just, they're not like, there's like kind of like lower versions of fiction where they're just like churned out, kind of like the Mac Bolan series or The Destroyer or something like that, which is Remo Williams. And those are kind of like just churned out by multiple different authors, and they're just kind of like, they all fit the same formula. But Dirk Pitt is a layer above, it's like a couple layers above that. And, it's not really high art, but it's kind of like pulp fiction in a lot of ways. but it's a higher grade of pulp fiction. It's better written than a lot of that stuff is. He has some pretty intricate plots. So let me show you some of my favorites out of my collection here. Anyway, all right. So this is the starting point. This is Pacific Vortex right here. And Pacific Vortex actually came out later, but it's technically his pilot. You know, his pilot for the series. This one didn't sell, and so he moved on to like the next one. But this is a real good way to, real good to jump in on. I would highly recommend this one if you just want to get into the series. He also meets a lady named Summer Moran who he pines for pretty much most of the rest of the series. And that she just rocks his world so much. And then later on we find out that, there's a plot development that happens having to do with her. But you think he loses her in this book. It's kind of like one of the... She's kind of his Vesper Lynn. The woman who kind of ruins him for all other women or whatever. He eventually does get married to a congressman, a lady. But this is a good place to start. And has a Cobra, an AC Cobra, as his car. And you'll find out in these series that he always has a vehicle, pretty much in every single one of these, and he'll collect them. His home is a empty hangar at the DC airport or whatever. But that's where he has his home, and that's where he holds his collection. And he gets every book he collects something, and it winds up in that hangar. It's a pretty clever way of creating continuity. So here's one, Deep Six, and this one, it's basically there's a poison that's affecting the waterways, and he's got to go after it. And this one, the president disappears, and he's like, this whole thing happens, and you got to find out why they're connected. It's not one of the better memorable ones. I kind of had to reread that one to remember. This is the one that put him on the map. Raise the Titanic, okay? Now, there's a couple things about this. This is the first time his book was tried. They tried to adapt one of his books, and it didn't go well. But there's several things he got wrong. He thought that the Titanic was completely intact, and that it could be raised to the surface, which is what this whole entire book's about. He was wrong on that. What he was right on, he got the depth that the Titanic is sitting at. He was pretty close to that, and he got roughly the longitude, but he got the latitude off about 10 nautical miles. But he was almost right on it, and he uses that ability later. I'll share what makes him really unique among all authors later. But this one here, it's one of the better books. It is a reason why it's so good, that people still remember it very well today. But let me play a trailer of the movie. There was no directions in there. And I've watched this movie. It's not the most fun watch. I'll just say that. But it's worth seeing just for the. Basically, spent all their money on a huge model of the Titanic and a tank, so they could do the visual of them raising the Titanic above the waves, and that's what's that sequence there. Anyway, so here you go.
What a lovely thing she was. Standing as high in the water as one of your skyscrapers. And God himself, they said, couldn't sink her. Then in 2 hours, she was gone, and 1,500 souls with her.
Control, this is Deep Quest at 8,000 feet. Negative contacts.
This is Turtle. No contacts. Out.
I think we hit the jackpot.
It's at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean.
You're talking about 12,500 feet underwater.
Which leaves us with only one choice.
Are you talking about raising the Titanic?
Yeah. It's the biggest job with the highest stakes anybody ever dreamt of.
If there's a leak, we have to stop it.
What do you mean by a leak? I don't even know what you're talking about.
It was a secret. That's what I'm telling you. Nobody knew about it.
This is Control. Do not exceed 12,000-foot depth limit. Out.
It's a starfish. We're flooding. Trying to surface. Over.
Starfish.
It's gone dead.
She's going down fast. They gotta lose some weight.
Release the damn thing!
I took this job on 2 conditions. One, that I handle the salvage end of it my way, and 2, that you stay out of my hair. It's gonna crush the Deep Quest.
Indicates electrical fire on the left.
If we can't cut loose that submersible, we gotta bring up the Titanic.
Target date's 2 weeks away.
Our target date just got changed.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Mark.
That's one of the interesting things where they show almost the whole entire movie. What you saw in that trailer was pretty much the whole entire movie. I mean, I mean, just about every single beat that you get in the movie, you see in that trailer. But you know, it's worth a watch. I mean, I'm not going to recommend watching it, but Clive didn't love it. He didn't love it at all. Clive had a love-hate relationship with Hollywood. I'll bring up the second time they tried to adapt one of his books later. But that one, he really had some conflicts. He tried to prevent what happened with Raise the Titanic, and it just made it worse. And kind of ruined his name in Hollywood for all time. That's why they'll probably never adapt another Dirk Pitt. But anyway, this one's my favorite out of all of them. This is Night Probe. This one is basically Dirk Pitt versus James Bond. at least the elderly James Bond, a retired James Bond. Pretty much Clive Cussler worked out that if James person, that he would be put in his 60s, or at least pushing 60 by the time this book happened. And so he had a gentleman who had a lot of James Bond attributes in this book. And so it's basically Dirk Pitt versus James Bond. And it's a really great read. It has a mystery at its core, which is just, this has a really amazing twist to it that you won't see coming. And this is probably one of my favorite books that he ever did. If I ever adapted another one, this would be my choice. But all these available, pretty much the whole entire series is available on audiobooks on YouTube. I don't know how they're getting away with that, but there's audiobooks of just about every one of these on YouTube right now. I might listen to a couple of them, I don't know. Anyway, this one here is a really good one. It's where he's searching for Cibola, the city of gold. Because it's like there's this strange phenomenon happening, and he's trying to trace the source of it. Because the waterways are being poisoned by something. And when he goes looking for it, he finds way more than he anticipated. But basically, you know, he finds the treasure of the Incas. But this one's kind of like a South American, more of a South American tale. It's really well written. It's what definitely a lot of people consider it a highlight. He had 17 bestsellers in a row, and now nobody talks about him. Clive Cussler had 17 bestsellers in a row, and he rarely gets talked about. That just blows my mind. This one here, Flood Tide. This is actually Dirk Pitt versus China, or at least a Chinese billionaire. And he's basically trying to he's trying to figure out there's like a connection between something happening in America and the Chinese. Yeah, the Chinese are building a seaport inland in Louisiana, miles away from the current this current seaport, and he's trying to find out why is China buying this property and building seaports far back from where they should be even accessible to water. It doesn't make sense, and so he's searching. He's trying to figure that out. And there's a lot of things that happen in this book that are very similar to our current relationship with China. And I think it's gotten him in trouble. I'll just say that. He had a lot of based opinions that would get him in trouble today. I'll say that. But that one's a really fascinating one. Okay, this was Dragon. And this one has one of his greatest one-on-one battles. It's based on the most dangerous game, and basically Dirk Pitt goes up against a samurai who likes to hunt his prey, and it's just one of the best sequences out of the whole entire series, you know. And this is definitely an amazing book, but it also talks about how aggressive the Japanese are in business-wise, and how a lot of that has to do with that they haven't really given up the war, that they really didn't concede World War II. And there's a lot of them that are still fighting the battle. But they're just doing it in boardrooms now. And you'll see a lot of things in there that ring true because Clive did his research. Okay, this one, this is basically Dirk Pitt goes to Cuba, Cyclops. And he basically hunts a guy down, or he runs across a guy that he thought was dead in Night Probe. And this guy shows up in Cuba when he goes down there. But it's basically they're trying to put a colony on the moon. And it's like a Cold War, kind of a Cold War thing. But it's pretty interesting. This one, this was like one of the more, more convoluted plots probably. But definitely enjoyable. Definitely enjoyable. Yeah. This one. This is the one that's a lot of the. This is kind of like Raise the Titanic. This one is the one that really got him a lot of play. And this one here is considered one of the better ones, one of the better plotted ones. And this one was made into a movie. But Clive didn't like it. He didn't. He fought for script control, and he was supposed to have it, but they had a clause where, as soon as they got a director, he no longer had any input in the script, and so he sued and the production, and he wound up losing later on. Because they got him in pretty much they got him on a handshake agreement, but the movie didn't do very well. But this movie is very rewatchable, and Dirk Pitt is played by Matthew McConaughey. Now Al Giordano is played by Timothy Zahn, and he's a acquired taste. I never bought him as Al Giordano, who's like physically a very strong guy. Timothy Zahn never. But Sandecker is a very familiar individual. So here's the. Let me show you the trailer right quick. They're not playing? Okay, hold on. Looks like I'm freezing up here. Alright, let me play this again. Let me try this again.
For years, I've wondered if the stories were true. And now, I finally have the proof.
You found a coin.
I found the coin. At the end of the Civil War, a battleship carrying a secret shipment of gold vanished without a trace.
Where in the hell did you get this?
On the Niger River in Africa.
You got 72 hours.
I'll meet you at the boat.
Nope. I got the check. Sit down, I'll get the check.
For explorer Dirk Pitt and his team.
This is the place. The ship should be here.
I have to warn you, it is very dangerous for foreigners.
It was a ghost ship, a cursed ship. The mystery that's buried with a long-forgotten legend carries a threat.
This thing could kill millions.
No one could have imagined.
Safina tu al-Maut.
That sounds poetic. What's it mean? The ship of death. Great!
This spring.
The Americans I was telling you about, they will soon find out what we're doing. And now the problem is mine.
I'm sorry, I don't speak English.
You are speaking English now.
I have some bad news about your boat.
Now, every clue.
I'm looking for a boat.
This is not the harbor.
What? Every secret.
Let's check it out.
Brings them closer to the greatest discovery under the sun.
Oh my God.
Bring them to me.
From international best-selling author Clive Cussler.
You American? Yeah. CIA.
No.
Matthew McConaughey.
I'll give you a door right now! There's no way that should have worked.
Steve Zahn. Penelope Cruz.
Bet you 100 there's a toolkit in there. Don't want to rain on your crazy parade, buddy, but I don't think we can fix this thing.
Sahara.
Hey! Where are we going? Hell if I know! But we're making great time!
Directed by Brett Eisner.
Okay. I will recommend this movie if you've never seen it. It should have been bigger than it was. I mean, it's a little disjointed, and Timothy Zahn probably is way too comedic to be out Giordano, but it is just it's a hoot. And this book it pretty much has everything in it. But let me play this clip right here to give you an idea of what the central premise for the whole entire thing is.
I think we should go back to the hospital.
Admiral, have you ever seen a Confederate gold dollar?
Oh, dear God, don't start this again.
Of course not, because the Confederacy never made a gold dollar. The mint was destroyed near the end of the war.
I beg you, on my hands and knees, don't.
But not before. Jefferson Davis had 5 samples made. He gave 4 of those samples to his top generals, Lee, Stonewall Jackson, Jeb Stuart, and
Every time we
Johnston.
come to Africa, out comes that stupid ship model. Out come the old port journals. We are leaving for Australia tomorrow.
4 of those samples have been found. But the 5th never was. That one was given to an old family friend of Davis, a brilliant young sea captain named Mason Toombs, captain of the CSS Ironclad, Texas. Huh?
Where in the hell did you get this?
Frederick Oshadi, and he got it from a man named Ndigwe. But the important thing is that Ndigwe found this in Labazanga, Mali.
Hey, my dad collects coins.
No, that coin and the Texas were on the Niger River.
It's impossible. An ironclad couldn't make it with her draft.
Let me take the Calliope up to Labazanga, have a look around.
Can't have my boat, Dirk.
3 days, Admiral. Just 3 days, imagine. Imagine. All right, if I strike out, you'll never hear another word about this.
You got 72 hours. And not a nanosecond more. You fellas just bought yourself a boat trip.
You're a gentleman, Admiral. I don't care what they say about you.
I got a bottle, says we never find it.
Make it a case.
All right, Your Honor.
Now, a lot of the problem that Clive Cussler had with it, and the problem with a lot of it was the tone. The tone, it was a little too comedic. Matthew McConaughey, this is before he took time off and became the serious actor we know him as today. Now, the Matthew McConaughey today would be a hell of a Dirk Pitt. He would be perfect as a Dirk Pitt. But back then, he was still in his rom-com stage, and he was still playing the same kind of goofy, affable guy. And so the tone didn't really fit the book series. He's more James Bond than he is, goofy guy. And so the tone was a little off. But if you don't see it as an adaptation, if you just see it as a movie to enjoy, then, it comes back around. It's worth seeing. But the book itself is really, really good. It has a twist in it. It's kind of an alternative history thing that really works. Now, the thing about Clive Cussler's writing, especially with Civil War, is he did his research, okay? Now, I happen to be a little bit of a Civil War history nut, especially the navies. That's why I have this book here. Okay. Now, here on page 221 is an entry to a... see that? That's a submarine during the Civil War. Okay? Now that one was not the... That one's similar to the one I'm about to talk about. It's called H&L Hunley. Okay? The H.L. Hunley, on its maiden voyage, and it already had like several disasters that happened, including one disaster where it sunk and it killed the guy who designed it. So it was considered kind of like a coffin. You know, anybody went down there, it's probably not going to come back out. And so it was a tough sell to get people to sell in it. But it actually sank a ship, the Housatonic, okay. And so it's the first submarine active in a wartime to sink another ship. And so it's very historic, okay. Well, Clive used his money to actually create Numa. It's in this book here. But he created the National Underwater Marine Agency. And but he used it. He basically searched out shipwrecks, like famous ships, like several of the ones that he found, like the Carpathia, which was one of the ships that was sent to that heard the Titanic's radio call. He found, he's like went looking for the Bonhomme Richard, looking for several other ones, but one that he found was the H&L Hunley.
We'd pull up to a target and they'd say, "All right, Harry, go down and see what it is." And I came up, still said, I don't know what it is, but it's not the Hunley. It's buried underneath 4 feet of overburden. So I had, using a dredge, we dug down to the hull of the submarine, and I'd exposed an area about this big and came up to change my tank, and Wes went back in the water. Well, the area where I put that first hole was right next to the forward hatch. Wes came up like 10 minutes later. He's like, "Well, that's it. Harry, go fill in the hole." You know, but what do you mean that's it? He's like, "It's a Hunley." I wish I had never said, "I don't know what it is, but it's not the Hunley." I have eaten those words.
So it is in it was in the Charleston Harbor, and nobody had found it for a long time. But the thing that Clive Cussler did that was better than any other person before him looking for these shipwrecks was his research. Now, a lot of people would finally get a search grid area, and then they would go and look for the search grid. But see, he was a writer, okay? And so what he would do is that he would get all this research, all this information together, and then he would use his writer's imagination to determine what happened next and kind of fill in the blanks. And multiple times he did this, and he was able to find things that that no one else had found. And one of those things was the H&L Hunley. It's now in Charleston, South Carolina, and it's being restored as we speak. And the reason they definitely know it was the Hunley because one of the officers that was in the Hunley had a very well documented gold piece that he kept. It was his lucky gold piece, and the bodies that they found inside the Hunley, one of them had that gold piece on it. It was very distinctive. It caught a bullet for him, and so the chances that there's going to be a sunken cigar-shaped ship in the like Charleston Harbor that has a skeleton on board with a gold piece with a bullet dent in it are very remote. So it definitely is the H&L Hunley. And they've since discovered some other things that make them absolutely sure. But you can go to Charleston today and see the H.L. Hunley. And you wouldn't be able to do that if Clive Cussler hadn't used his millions of dollars from these books that he was selling to actually look for some of these historic shipwrecks. And he's raised all sorts of things. And one of the interesting things was he was looking for a train that supposedly went off of a bridge, but they never recovered it. And people had because it was the Colorado River, I think it was, which is really high currents. People haven't been able to dive in and find it. And people risked their lives looking for this thing, this engine. And but he actually managed to dredge enough of the riverbed where it would have fallen that he was convinced that wasn't what happened. And so he goes back and backtracks in his research, and he discovers that it was a simple insurance scam. That it never went off a bridge, it never sank. It was just rebadged to keep that particular railroad solvent. They just faked the whole entire accident and then took the insurance payoff and then rebadged it and then used it for years as under a new badge. And so he discovers that, and it's in one of his books. That twist is in one of his books, but this book right here is very interesting. It kind of gives some of his biography. It also it has a short story where he walks into a party that's going on in the hangar, Dirk Pitt's hangar, and kind of roams around sightseeing all of these things from his books that are in there. Then he has a conversation with Dirk Pitt as the author. But he put himself in several books. Every once in a while, Dirk would be looking at a car show, and he'd run across this familiar guy with a white beard and a twinkle in his eye. And he'd always feel like he knew that guy from somewhere, but he never could place him. So he's kind of like Stan Lee before Stan Lee. Clive put himself in his own books. Now, he might have got that idea from Stephen King, because Stephen King would do the same thing. Well, Stephen King did it in the movies, but he didn't do it in his own books. But Clive did it in his own books. And I kind of took some of that. I have a self-insert in my universe that could very well be an aspect of me. So I got that idea from Clive. I stole it. But anyway, so if you're not really understanding what I'm putting down here, one last book. This is the book that probably is the reason why nobody talks about Clive. Shockwave. Because in this book, one of the bad guys happens to be trans. And when you get, I mean, you see what's happened to J.K. Rowling, you know. She has, like, one ideology or one thing that moves out of lockstep with the rest of them, and that's the trans ideology, and they've tried to cancel her over it. I mean, they had a retrospective of Harry Potter that didn't have her in it anywhere. They basically did the retrospective just to exclude her. But so any author that has anything in the past that doesn't apologize for what they wrote in their book back in the day will get canceled. And Clive Cussler was not a man who's ever apologized for anything. It's one of the things that made him kind of hard to deal with and hard to live with. That's the reason why I can't get his movies adapted. But it was also one of the things that made him who he was. So, he died in 2020. But along the lines, he had launched a whole bunch of other book series that were parallel to Dirk Pitt. But what he'd do is he'd find a good author that he liked, put him under his belt or under his wing, put his name on it to sell the book, but they'd be there writing. Now, I've never heard of anybody else doing this, but he launched a couple other book series. Now, the primary book series, the Dirk Pitt series, is his son, Dirk Cussler, took that over. But Paul Capricos did the Numa Files. That's his series right here. And it's basically another aspect of that fictitious organization. He has another operative named Kurt Alston and his team, and there's a lot of crossovers with the other series, but it's a good series. This one here is the Oregon. Now this is kind of like his pirate, modern day pirate. And this is like it looks like an ordinary cargo ship, except it's equipped with enough weaponry to shame a battleship, and it's also got enough speed in it to outrun most modern military vessels. And it's run by a one-legged man. And his crew, and it's really cool. Juan Cabrillo. So it's basically a modern pirate, but it looks like an ordinary rusty ship. But then you go underneath the surface, and it's a powerful vessel, and it's called the Oregon, and this is called the Oregon Files. It's written by Craig Dirgo, who also helped him write a couple other things like the Sea Hunters. Now, he has a classic, a throwback series called Isaac Bell series. And this one here, this was written by Justin Scott. Now, after his, I guess he knew he was getting up there in years, and he was wanting to expand the brand to, because the Dirk Pitt book series was getting a little long in the tooth, and so he made he couldn't be everywhere at once. He couldn't write as much as he used to, so he wrote the Dirk Pitt series with his son, and he got these other men to write this other series, and the way they expand the brand. But then everything had Clive Cussler on it to move it. And so he launched the careers of these men. And it's the quality kind of like hit or miss for me. I used to collect some of the Isaac Bells. I've gotten like 3 of those. A couple of the Numa files. But he did water down his brand a little bit. I do have that one Oregon files. So he did water down the brand just a tad bit. He did flood the shelves just a tad bit, and I think it's hurt him and hurt the Clive Cussler name in the long run. But these early the Dirk Pitt books are just, all of them are solid. I mean, got one called Vixen 03. That's really good. You know, Treasures one. You know, I showed you Inca Gold. There's now I haven't followed the series in a lot of years because I just got so much of a backlog that I kind of lost touch with the series, and so I have quite a few to catch up on. But I can recommend any of these earlier books that I've read most of them up to. I think the last one I read was Valhalla Rising. But up to Valhalla Rising, I've read just about every one of the Dirk Pitt series. And if you want a good read that's not so complicated, it's going to like fry your brain or keep you engaged to where, you know, everybody's kind of busy these days, and these are quick reads. They're not lowbrow. They've got enough plot, they've got enough character, they've got enough twists to keep you intrigued and keep you reading. And they're pretty action-packed. And there's the really good books. If you looking for a series, this is a high recommend for me. This is a bunny recommend. The whole series is up to at least Valhalla Rising, I think is around a 5.5. Even the worst book that I read was still a solid 4.5. And so it's very consistent. The quality is very consistent. And when they're good, they're very, very good. And he's got some of them, like Shockwave is one of my favorites. The Inca Gold is real good. Sahara is really great. And Raise the Titanic is an awesome book. But not Probe. Not Probe is definitely my favorite. But, you know, just they're all available. If you want an audio book, there's a whole bunch of audio books of these book series right free on YouTube. I don't know how they're getting away with it, but they're free on YouTube. I don't know about the quality of them, but I'm probably going to delve into that later and see if there's any that are good quality. But these are easy books to get into, quick reads. Every book is self-contained. You do see some things carrying over, but that doesn't, like, you're not dependent upon the previous book or the book after to continue some kind of continuity. It's just the world that he's living in. And so you'll see some crossovers, you'll see some callbacks, you'll see some characters that show up again. But for the most part, it's just an enjoyable read. So I highly recommend it. Anyway, thank you all for coming tonight. Check that out. And we'll see you next time. Follow the White Rabbit. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.